the D23 Expo that went down this past weekend. This is a biannual celebration that members of D23 get to attend, where we get all sorts of new announcements about upcoming entertainment from Disney and all of their sub brands and sub studios that they have. And then they also spend a lot of time talking about the future of their theme parks and experiences division. And then, of course, they also have a big Disney Legends ceremony where they sort of induct people that have been closely related to the Disney brand over the years into what I would call their Hall of Fame, so to say. They have a big ceremony for those people, but we're mostly going to focus on the movie announcements and the movie updates that we got from the various studios. We'll touch on the theme park stuff and just kind of share our thoughts and break down, the meaning of these announcements, what we feel about them, and ultimately some of our big takeaways. And things kicked off really on Friday night in a big way with the Disney Entertainment Expo, again, where they were going to focus on all of their upcoming projects within the next couple of years or so from their big studios. And they went through everything from both Disney animation divisions, Pixar and the traditional Walt Disney Animation Studio. They had a lot of live action projects that are going to be coming out over the next couple of years. Lucasfilm, of course, had a presence there to talk about upcoming Star Wars projects. And last but certainly not least, Marvel Studios was certainly present to talk about many of their upcoming projects over the course of the next couple of years. So we're just going to kind of run through these and share our thoughts and reactions and how we're feeling about them. And let's start off with the Disney live action stuff. Their big showcase here for Disney live action, which sort of bookended the presentation. They started off with a few things at the beginning, and then they also ended with a lot of stuff. We got sort of a new sort of motion teaser for the live action Lilo and Stitch movie that's going to be coming out next year, if I'm not mistaken. Also, they had Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan present to talk about Freakier Friday. Nothing was revealed publicly, but I'm sure that they showed some footage from the movie inside of the hall. They just actually started shooting that movie recently. They also did release publicly a trailer for the Snow White movie that's going to be coming out in March of 2025. That is starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. And then they also spotlighted Tron Ares, which is going to be the third installment in the Tron series that's also slated to come out at some point next year. Jeff Bridges is coming back. They announced that Nine Inch Nails is going to be doing the soundtrack. Unfortunately, which breaks my heart, Daft Punk is no longer together, so they couldn't come back and do the soundtrack. But Nine Inch Nails, also really, really good substitute to go ahead and do that soundtrack. And they also announced a new original film. Dwayne The Rock Johnson was there. He was to talk about some Moana stuff that we'll get to, but they announced a new original film called Monster Jam. Don't really know what that's about. Don't know what they're going for there, but it's going to be something that The Rock is going to be attached to. So he's obviously continuing that relationship with Disney. What are your thoughts on just like what we heard out of these sort of big announcements about these upcoming live action projects?
Man, there's so much to, Disney has been in such a weird place. You don't know where a lot of this is going to be really good or really bad or in the middle or what's going to happen. I will say Avatar Fire and Ash, excited for it. I just thinking about what the experience we've been through with James Cameron thus far, like starting off in Pandora, moving on to Wherever We Were in Way of the Water and how beautiful that movie looked. Now we get Fire. I'm just excited to see like what the hell is this dude about to do with fire on the screen. We've been through these blues and purples. I'm like, oh, it's red time. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So I'm excited to see Fire and Ash whenever that drops late next year. Monster Jam. I mean, the Rock is just going to be monster truck superstar somehow. I don't know what he's going to do or what that movie looks like, but whatever. We'll have to see when we get to that. Lilo and Stitch, I don't know, man. I'm a big Stitch fan. Seeing like the little thing going on with Stitch, the little teaser they dropped with him. I'm not saying it doesn't look good. It looks great. The CGI looks good. I'm like, oh, that looks. But do we need this? I don't know. Did we ask for this? Like, what is?
You can
what is
apply
this
that to
Lilo and
anything they
Stitch?
announced, honestly. All of this shit
No,
is
yeah,
stuff that we've gotten before.
man, it's like what is happening here? And I think overall, I mean, you really just said it with all of the stuff that we will talk about here in a sec. Are really any of it is? I think what's disappointing is the lack of originality in any of this. Like the only thing that is new is Monster Jam, whatever the hell that's going to be, and it's like or one of the only things that's original. Something else I think might be original here, but it's just like what's going on there. But Snow White, I'm ready to hear Rachel Ziegler sing. I hope that's good. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Snow White, so this is another example of like maybe they can do something to make me interested in Snow White. You have an opportunity. We'll see what happens. Freakier Friday, excited for it. actually. And then Tron Ares, man. Who knows? I'm excited. Nine Inch Nails are going to be over the music in that film. But yeah, who knows? I like the cast. It might be shaping up to be something interesting. But overall, it's hard. It's hard for me to really get excited about any Disney project anymore. It's always just like, that's the announcement. We'll see what happens, kind of type thing. So I feel the same with all these here.
Well, I'm I'm a little perplexed that we're doing a third Tron movie.
Mm-hmm.
The second one wasn't like super successful. I don't think a lot of people saw the second Tron. I didn't realize Tron had such a strong lineage. I thought it looked fantastic. I remember being excited about the second Tron movie and seeing it in theaters. Story doesn't hold up really well at all, but the look of it
It looks great.
was incredible, and the soundtrack, of course. They've managed to make 3 of these now, which is always just super interesting to me. The rest of this stuff, it can come and go, and I won't be bothered. To be honest
Mm-hmm.
with you, with the exception of Avatar: Fire and Ash, I was going to hold that. We were going to talk about it, but I'll touch on that right now. The title is great. It certainly speculated amongst a bunch of people that we were going to be exploring the elements of Earth in all of these movies, and we just focused a lot on water. So now fire is going to be very prominent in this third one, which we're going to get in December of 2025. Can't wait to see some volcanoes and a lot of stuff going down with whatever world we're going to visit and whatever tribes we'll see in this new Avatar. But just visually, knowing what James Cameron is capable of and knowing what his team is capable of, I mean, there's just endless possibilities to make that feel totally different and distinct than the other two that we've already gotten feel. So I'm excited about it. I know people feel a way about Avatar, of course, but again and again, how can we continue to question James Cameron and just like what he's capable of? And Lilo and Stitch and Freakier Friday, no comment. And Snow White in and of itself, that movie has gone through it's been interesting, the conversation and the controversy around that film. It's not something that I think is necessarily going to be a shoe-in terms of being a super successful film. There's a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who kind of have I guess feelings about just the depiction of what are to be the dwarves in the movie, but then also just like the stars at the forefront of it, Rachel Ziegler and
Mm-hmm.
Gal Gadot. I guess have not been perceived as being the most friendly people, or the people that are necessarily going to put a lot of butts in seats. And so I'm
Yeah.
very curious to see how it performs. However it turns out from a story perspective, I could care less, honestly, but I'm interested
Mm-hmm.
to see how many people show up for Snow White. A lot of these other films have been very successful, the live action adaptations, but Snow White is the first. It comes from the 30s. This is a very old story. I mean, it's always
Mm-hmm.
permeated their history because it is so important to what laid the foundation for everything that they did thereafter, known as an animation studio first and foremost. But it's just a different time. So I don't know if this is going to be a surefire here tonight. So I'll be interested to see how that turns out. Let's talk. Let's move on and talk about some of the Disney animation stuff, both Pixar and traditional Disney, Walt Disney Animation. Frozen 3 has officially now been moved to 2027. That was initially going to come out in 2026, along with Toy Story 5 when we first heard about that a couple of years ago from Bob Iger, but they've punted that a year. And they've also teased that they're already developing a fourth film, which has me thinking that they're probably going to make these back to back. They're probably going to do Frozen 3 and Frozen 4 at the same time, just to
Mm-hmm.
shorten the gap in between films and cash in on all that great money. But also, they featured Moana 2 and gave us a new trailer that I still have not watched, but Moana 2 is coming out later this year. And they also highlighted Zootopia 2. Nothing publicly was released, if I'm not mistaken, but they did mention that film, as that is in active development right now. And then on the other side of things with Pixar, Toy Story 5 also was spotlighted and highlighted. And we got a little bit of an inkling about what the story is going to be about. And this film is still coming out in 2026. But the film is going to follow the toys going up against electronics. And so we have certainly caught up to Gen Z and mobile phones and social media and all that great stuff. So that's an interesting dynamic when you look at toys and traditional action figures and things of that nature, and just like what that looks like for young kids today. And apparently, an army of 50 Buzz Lightyear toys who were stuck in the malfunctioning play mode, which, if you remember from Toy Story 3, that was a big story component. Apparently, they're going to be the villains of the film. So they're sort of bringing back something that worked for 3 into 5. Let's hold Incredibles 3 for now. What do you think about just like what they talked about with Frozen 3 in particular, Toy Story 5, because we know those are huge, but then also
Mhm.
any other thoughts you might have about the upcoming Moana film coming out later this year?
Man, I did not like Frozen 2 that much. I understand why Frozen 3 and 4 are happening. I mean, things make money. So I get why it's happening. I just hope they can bring it back from what get a villain. We need villains, please. Can Frozen 3 please have a villain? Let's figure it out. I hope the story is there. I making a fourth film before the third one comes out is an interesting choice. I think I still do understand from a money perspective what's happening there. Like I mean they just know potentially like what's going to happen. So I guess if you say so, but I just looking that far ahead is just, I don't know. It kind of blows my mind still, regardless of the way you put it for me. I think Moana. I didn't watch that new trailer either, but it's I mean it's gonna do great. It's Moana. Zootopia 2 is one of the things I'm here for. Hell to the yes. I have been waiting for Zootopia 2 since Zootopia 1 dropped. I think they were cooking with grease in that first Zootopia, and I think they have more story to tell. I think they have more again, I think the themes of Zootopia just really mature to me. I like them talking about racism and sexism and all those things in that really cool animal form with comedy, and I like the way it looks, and I think they can do some more things there with Zootopia. So I hope that follows through. But I am definitely here for Zootopia. Toy Story, wow, they. I can't believe we're here. I cannot believe we're here. I feel like every Toy Story is us hoping. I feel like we got lucky with Toy Story 4. It is a good movie. It is. Can we get lucky again with Toy Story 5? I don't know. I'm sure Tim Allen let him release his shackles. I don't know if he still wants to be here. I don't know if I don't know if Tom Hanks still wants to be here. I get it, they're getting checks, but still, I remember feeling like you watching those like those Tim Allen interviews with Toy Story 4, and it's like this dude does not want to be here. Leave him alone. But Toy Story 5 would be interesting. They're gonna be fighting these iPad kids. Why would you play with toys when you could just watch Coco Melon and Bluey on your iPad? I get it. I get it. That's a crazy thing to think about. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, man. I'll always be here for Toy Story. It's literally one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'll be there for sure. But let's see if they get lucky again. Is the best I can say. Let's see if they get lucky again, because I can't believe they're continuing to make these movies. It's kind of insane.
Until they're 90. In the words of
Until they're
Deadpool,
90.
until they're 90, they're not going any fucking where. Here's the thing. They would not be making this movie. I promise you this. They would not be making this movie if Lightyear worked. That's really the bottom line about it. They were going to take these individual characters and spin them off. So Toy Story would never die. You're just not going to let that die and just wither away. They're going to use it somehow, but they tried to do something interesting and nobody cared. Nobody was here for it. Nobody wanted to see a real life origin story Buzz Lightyear movie. That's partially on us as an audience, but it also is on them because the movie should have been better. The movie wasn't great either, right? So they have to make a very great story to compel people to even want to be interested in it. But if that movie had not bombed in the way that it did, we wouldn't even be here talking about this. But because it didn't work, let's go back to what we know will work. And from that perspective, as a business, obviously can't blame them. When the movie comes out, it's going to be a reality. They're going to make 10 more of them. It is what it is. I'll see it, hope for the best. And the rest of them, similar situation. We're just kind of here just having these things happen to us. Zootopia 2 even, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. I personally don't need these animated movies to get political on me. I'm not here for that. Personally on these animated films and to talk about current shit, but if it's interesting, I guess that's fine too, but all of these things are in a state of, hey, this is what's worked. This is what is proven to be super successful, obviously, and we're going to go back to it and do more of it. I think the only really, I guess, saving grace about it is just knowing, like, yeah, new generations will be able to catch on to the stuff and grow up with them, and have that attachment to them. That's really cool. If you got kids, if you got people that are younger in your family that enjoy the stuff, that's amazing. And obviously, Frozen 3 is a phenomenon. They'll always continue to tell more stories there. Same thing with Toy Story. But these are things that we just know are staples to their brand and to what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish here. And that's what Bob Iger's here to do before he retires in 2026, to write the shit, get them back on the level playing field that they need to be on, and give us the biggest bangers possible to make the most money possible. Now, there's all an exception to the rule. And my exception is Incredibles 3 because we got an official announcement that this movie is in active development. It is happening. Brad Bird, who directed the first two movies, is developing this one. They didn't say direct, but they did say developing. I'm hoping he does end up directing it because why not? And they are
Yeah.
making that movie. It's going to be coming soon to theaters. We don't really know much else beyond that. We don't know story. We don't know if there's going to be a time jump, which was not the case between 1 and 2. They pretty much take place one after the other, but Incredibles 3 did indeed get me excited. And this was also like the most unexpected announcement, like something that we hadn't heard about at all. We heard about Toy Story 5 and Frozen 3 and Zootopia 2. We knew about these things. Incredibles 3, I think a lot of people hoped for it and wished for it. Why not conclude? Let's not say conclude, but why not make a trilogy out of it? But they had not confirmed anything until this ceremony this past Friday. What were your thoughts on hearing about this and knowing that we're going to get a third edition of The Incredibles?
Oh man, I was lit. Incredibles, also one of my favorite movies of all time, and to hear that they were coming out with a third one, man, was just what I needed to hear. I think again, Pixar is trying to get back to it, man. They really are. They're trying to get it together, and unfortunately, that does mean they got to go back to some drawing boards in terms of property that we already know and love and that we know going to work. Toy Story is one of them. Inside Out 2, very successful movie that we just got done talking about, and here we are with talking about Incredibles 3, something they know people are going to go see and kind of be a win for them. It's almost like they know they need some of these things to come back and be wins. And so I'm very excited for this movie. Brad Bird is more than capable of making a exceptional third installment. I'm excited for it. I actually hope they do a time jump. That is something I would like. I
They
would really like if
should.
they did a time jump. They definitely should. We've done that family dynamic twice now. It worked. Let's do a time jump and see if we can do something new. But very excited for it, man. I'll be there day one when Incredibles drops.
Speaking of Inside Out 2, they also did announce a new spin-off series that's going to be coming to Disney Plus called Dream Productions, which
Mm-hmm.
is going to follow the studio that exists within inside of people's minds that ultimately are responsible for memories, which is like a concept that they really explored in the second one. They're going to make a series about that. They also did announce that they're developing, to I guess give them some credit, a new original series that's going to come to Disney Plus called Win or Lose. This looks like it's based on a sports team, like perhaps a baseball team. And it's going to be what is considered their first long form series. They've developed stuff for Disney Plus thus far, shorts and things of that nature, but they haven't developed a true series that's existed on its own. And so this is going to apparently be Pixar's first long form series. And so that'll be a new property that solely exists on Disney Plus. But on the theatrical side of things, yeah, we're getting back to the very reliable tentpole projects that will certainly carry them to tremendous success over the next 5 years or so, because there's no doubt that all of these movies, are going to perform exceptionally well. Inside Out 2 right now, the highest grossing movie of the year, in the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time. So this is only adding further credence to their theory, that people want to go back to the familiar. They want to see the things that they have a relationship with that have worked so far. But let's move on to Lucasfilm. They had a little bit of a showing here. They released a trailer for Skeleton Crew, which is going to be coming out this December on Disney Plus. It's the next series that they have on deck in the Star Wars universe. They also highlighted season 2 of Andor, which is going to be coming out at some point in 2025. They have not specified a date. Sad me, but we'll get there eventually. But they did also announce that Ben Mendelsohn is going to be coming back as Director Krennic. He's reprising that role from Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Also, Alan Tudyk is coming back as K2SO, and Forrest Whitaker is returning as Saw Gerrera. So a lot of characters that we did see in Rogue One are coming for this second season, and we know now that the series, and this season in particular, season 2, is going to take place over the course of 4 years, and every 3 or 4 episodes they're going to do a 1-year time jump in between events, and that's not unfamiliar if you watch season 1 of Andor. And you should if you have not. But if you've watched season 1 of Andor, you could tell that the series was developed in sort of pockets of episodes. Every 3 or 4 episodes was sort of its own isolated story, and they would tell individual stories and do brief time jumps in between. But now we're taking some pretty massive leaps to get us up to the events of Rogue One, considering that this will take place over the course of 4 years. And last but certainly not least, they also spotlighted The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is going to what appears to be the first Star Wars movie that's theatrically released since The Rise of Skywalker. So it'll be a 7-year gap. That movie's coming out in May of 2026. They haven't specified the date, but I would assume it'll come out later in May, a few weeks after we get Avengers Doomsday. So it's going to be a big May
Hmm.
of 2026 for Disney as a company. So, what were your thoughts on all this stuff? The Skeleton Crew trailer, the Andor announcements, and then, of course, the hype train that's starting to build for the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew looks like one of those things where I think they're just trying to get more kids into Star Wars in general. Of course, they had like that what was it called? Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, I think it was. But yeah, that was like a very, very young audience that we're trying to go for, like Disney Junior type audience. And I think Skeleton Crew was like right above that, right? Kind of like the middle elementary, middle school kids is what it seems like they're going after with Skeleton Crew. And I mean, it looks okay. It looks fine. It looks like, yeah, just one of them shows to get those kids into Star Wars, because there are some more mature ideas and themes in the Star Wars we've been getting recently, and it's like, oh, how can we appeal to kids in this time to get, so that's what it feels like Skeleton Crew is for me. But yeah, we'll have to see how that is. We know how these shows have been going. Andor season 2, definitely here for it. Very excited for it. I'm happy everybody returns. They need to return in order to, again, it's time for us to close this gap leading up to Rogue One. I love to see it. I'm excited to see how they are doing this in snippets again. Even when we talked about Andor, it was like, these episodes are for these couple episodes are for this, it seems like they're doing the same thing with the time skips here, with, again, 1 year every 3 episodes is kind of cool. So we'll see how that goes. But very excited for Andor, man. What they were cooking with grease in that first season, and so I think they're here to be successful for the second. Mandalorian and Grogu, it's kind of taking a long time. It's just taking a long time. Everything Star Wars, theatrical, anything is taking way too long. So I am still here for it. I do want to see that movie. You know, we have talked about it in length. Star Wars is a theatrical experience. Get us back in the movies. Let's do that. But it's like, dang, it's still so far from now until we're going to get to that point. Like, so yeah, it gets here when it gets here, but it's hard. It's hard to be excited for it because it has already been so long. You said 7 years since the Rise of Skywalker. Is like, Jesus Christ, we are just, I don't know what we're
Well,
doing.
it's because they announced a bunch of movies and canceled them. I mean, this was obviously a new
Mm-hmm.
project that they weren't initially developing because The Mandalorian is on Disney Plus. But I
Yeah.
think that they got through all of these other projects and they started to drop off like flies, like the Rogue Squadron stuff and the alleged Ryan Johnson trilogy and the Kevin Feige movie that was allegedly in development. They got axed. Like they had all these things that they were working on that just didn't go anywhere. So they kind of needed something that was a surefire bet. They know
Mm-hmm.
that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are not going anywhere. They were probably
Yep.
going to make a season 4. Well, let's just reshape that and repurpose it into a movie to get us a movie in theaters because it has been 7 years. It's been an incredibly long time. But yeah, it's been a bit, and a lot has transpired in that 7 years too for the brand. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right, and I can't even imagine if they didn't have Grogu and Mandalorian to go off on. Then
yikes,
it'd be like, what the hell are we really doing? You know what I'm
yikes.
saying? Like, if Mandalorian was never made, where would we be at? I actually don't know
Oh, much
what they
worse
would be
off.
doing. Much worse off. And so, I'm still excited for it. I like Mando. I like Grogu. So it's just very far away. But I'll be here for it when that time rolls around, regardless.
I think my thing for that movie, The Mandalorian, first 2 seasons great, third season not good, but I just want to know and understand like what's the destiny of these characters?
Yeah.
Like where are we going? Because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
far too often The Mandalorian, even though it's constructed to be this way, it's a little too meandering at points where we're just kind of like
Right.
following the characters and nothing significant is really happening and they take like a whole season to tell an arc of a story that could have probably been wrapped up in maybe an episode or two and what's really happened with Grogu, like it's just a lot of stuff. Even Mando himself, he got sidelined in season 3 to focus more on Bo-Katan and the whole
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian tribes. And there was some interesting stuff there, but I just want to know, like, all right, what's the point now? What's the
Yeah.
resolution? What is going to be the crescendo of this story? Because so far it's just been Mando has adopted Grogu, somewhat reluctant initially. Now he has like fully adopted him as a son, and there was
Mm-hmm.
some leaked footage that came out. Not that I watched it, but some leaked footage maybe alluded to the fact that he's going to take less jobs because he is caring for Grogu. Like he's going to actually do less work now. All right, that's interesting, but what does that amount to as a story? So that's what I'm really just curious about. Like, what's the purpose and what's the destiny of these characters? Because we've been kind
Mm-hmm.
of stringing them along for a while now. Skeleton Crew. What I'll say is, I'm not here for Star Wars TV at all anymore. Like, I'm not here for it. I'm gonna watch the first episode or the first two episodes, whatever they release, and if I'm not with it, I'm out. I'm calling that now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out. I just can't do it anymore. But I will say the vibes and what they're going after here, I dig it. I like it because it's very much resembling that Amblin feel, the Goonies and E.T., young children in a
Yeah.
world of discovery. The world is in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Your future is in front of you. There's all sorts of possibilities. It felt just like what Kathleen Kennedy and Steven Spielberg used to do when they were producing partners in the early 80s and developing these Amblin films. Like, it felt like they just took that spirit and that ethos and said, like, let's put Amblin within the Star Wars universe. And that I like
Yeah.
because that calls back to my childhood. That makes me feel very nostalgic inside to know that that's like the feel and the vibe. And I like Jude Law a lot, big Jude Law fan. So I'm excited to see him be a part of this. So I like
Mm-hmm.
the vibes. I like what they did with just the feeling of the show and the scene that they're setting. But the jury is out on the quality of it. That
Do
will
you
be told in December.
do you know how successful the Willow TV series was?
Not at
Was that like
all.
a
They
pretty?
canceled
It
it.
wasn't very
Yeah, it wasn't
successful.
successful
Oh
because
damn!
they didn't
Because
greenlight
that's
it.
what I was thinking. That's also kind of like that. I'm thinking like that age range of
Yeah,
what the story they're trying to tell, and it's George Lucas, right? Isn't Willow George Lucas too? So yeah, I was just thinking, like,
yeah.
oh, I
They
wonder how
they
that did.
they yeah, it didn't do well. They canceled it. I mean, here's the problem with Willow. Like, I know it's grown in appreciation over time. It became a cult hit, but when the movie came out, it was a flop. It flopped when it hit the box office,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know. To think that all of a sudden a massive audience is going to turn out just because it's a
Yeah.
new generation and just because it's on Disney Plus might have been a foolish thought on their part. It's kind of like the Blade Runner
Mm-hmm.
2049 conversation. Like, Blade Runner was never this massive crossover success.
It was always a cult.
It was always a
Yeah.
cult hit. So why are we spending
Mm-hmm.
$200 million to make a movie on Blade Runner? It just doesn't make sense, you know. I think that's what happened with Willow, but it does definitely lean into, I think, a similar aesthetic and a similar
Mm-hmm.
vibe in terms of people who were fans of that property, also fans of like some of those earlier Amblin properties. So we'll see. And then Andor season 2, for me, the greatest Star Wars story that's been told since the original trilogy. Tony Gilroy, give him everything he wants. That the show has just gone above and beyond everything that I could have ever hoped for, and to know that we're going to do some more ambitious storytelling in season 2 with these time jumps and all these characters that are coming back. Everything that they did with the first season was it was spectacular, just absolutely spectacular. That's the outlier compared to all this stuff, and that's kind of the gift and the curse too, because when you get an Andor season 2, for me as a fan of Star Wars who wants to see more stuff like that, everything else just comes up so short. It just comes up so
Mm-hmm.
short. If we never got Andor season 1, I'd probably be looking at the stuff with more hard eyes. But now I'm just like, the fuck? Like, if you're not coming like Andor, I don't want it. So yeah, we'll have to see. Let's move on to Marvel Studios. Lots of questions about what they were going to show up with here, especially considering they just came off of Comic-Con and dropped the most absolutely massive bomb that they could drop with the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. Nothing was ever going to match that announcement. I mean, that was really kind of the big gun that we were going to get this summer from them. But they did highlight some things that are coming out, mostly TV stuff, but they did highlight a couple of movies. Captain America Brave New World. We got, due to some leaked footage that, I did not see myself, but this is what was said, that there was some leaked footage of the Red Hulk out there that gave us like a more fully formed look at Harrison Ford as the character. And also, according to some people that were inside the Honda Center, which, by the way, magnificent look and feel for the
It was
presentation. I
beautiful in there.
I gotta stop there real
Yeah.
quick. They
Yeah.
killed the presentation and the production value in the Honda Center. I mean,
Yeah.
goddamn,
I
Comic-Con
agree.
San Diego, y'all got to step y'all game up because
Yeah.
that shit looked tremendous. But
Mhm.
anyway, to get back to Captain America Brave New World, they also, some spectators said that President Thunderbolt Ross was giving a speech and talking about that adamantium was being harvested from the celestial that's been living in I think, the Indian Ocean since Eternals. There were a lot of rumors and speculation that adamantium was finally going to be introduced in the MCU, and they were going to do it by way of the celestial. It appears that
Mhm.
that's now confirmed, that adamantium is going to be fully integrated into the story and into the MCU. They also had the cast of Ironheart come out. and they talked a bit about the upcoming series. There was also a trailer shown in the Honda Center, and it might have leaked online, and people might have seen it and talked about it. I'm not one of those people, but it might have happened. And they also had the cast of Agatha All Along come out, and they sang a really, really cool rendition of a song from the show that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And they dropped a brand new trailer that was released publicly. We also got some big, big stuff from Daredevil Born Again. Season 1 we know is going to debut in March of 2025. They also confirmed that season 2 is going to be filming soon. They're already working on season 2, which is music to my ears. And once again, they showed a trailer exclusively for the Honda Center that may have made its way online, and people may have seen it and talked about it. Me not being one of those people, but it happened. And so, yeah, man, what were your thoughts on Marvel, their output, what they decided to show, and maybe equally what they decided to hold back and not talk about this time?
Yeah, it still feels like, let's flesh out what we do know and what we can control right now in a lot of these projects. Of course, they're still trying to get people very excited for Brave New World. I think there's a lot of still implications in that movie, so they're like, y'all need to come watch this. And I think that's part of the reason for the clip, right? The adamantium is in the celestial clip, because the thing is about Captain America, we have so many questions. One of them being, are we going to talk about the Avengers in that movie? But another them being, how does this relate to the multiverse? Like, if we equally want this movie to be grounded, but also what are the implications of this thing? And I think them finally bringing up the celestial and saying they're harvesting adamantium, and it's like, oh, okay, that's where we're going with this thing. There's now more to this movie than meets the eye. That's how we can get political in a Captain America movie, is talk about Tiamat in the middle of the ocean. And now, again, slowly but surely, a lot of the projects we've been again slow. We're closing that mutant gap. We're slowly and slowly closing that mutant gap. And I think they're just trying to get people excited, which is again why we see the Red Hulk. Which, I'm glad it doesn't come out for another couple months. I think it definitely still needs some more work, in the same way, you were talking about, you were just talking about, like, Andor. Once you get Andor, all the other stuff is like, what are we doing? Once you see Thanos, bro, it's like, yeah. Okay, but we're like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, I need y'all to get it together. If Thanos can look like that, we now have there's a new ceiling. I'm sorry, it's a new ceiling. So, like, hopefully when it comes out, it looks better. It doesn't look terrible, don't get me wrong, but we know it can look way better than what it looks in the look that we've got.
What specifically is not holding up for you right now with just like what we've seen? And it's all brief stuff. We haven't seen a ton, but what specifically stands out?
The face. It's like, I don't know if Harrison Ford's face has been integrated into Red Hulk how I need him to be integrated. There are, and that's one of the actually cool things about the first Incredible Hulk movie, is like, nah, bro, you really look like Eric Bana. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, you look pretty good, actually. And so I think I just need that to look almost, like that. I need that realism. I love how they crossed pollinated Thanos and
Josh Brolin.
What you call it? And Josh Brolin. I love how I just like the way it looks. And so I'm not getting that feel yet. Right now, it still feels a little too, it's him, but it's like, it could look better. So yeah, that's exactly what's doing it for me right now. That integration of the faces. But yeah, man, we'll see. To be honest, everything that comes out of Captain America: Brave New World does get me more excited about it, for sure. I will say that. There's always like a small detail. I was like, I like that y'all are talking about that, or I like that y'all went that direction. So this is no exception. I really like the adamantium being harvested for a celestial idea.
Yeah, I think the Captain America, it's a bit of an uphill battle. I think that they're fighting with this movie for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, Anthony Mackie stepping in and now being Captain America. That's something that audiences are going to have to be accustomed to. But maybe even more importantly, this is following up a series. And if you didn't watch the series, it'll be interesting to see whether or not that's going to play into the story that they tell. Probably not, if we're being honest about it. But at the same time, we saw what just happened with the Marvels. I think a lot of people probably didn't show up to that movie because they heard like, oh wait, I have to watch 3 shows before going to see this movie for it to make sense. I'm not doing that. This is obviously a much different circumstance, as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was just a singular show that came out before this. But I'm super curious to see how this performs, but everybody keeps touting it as the most grounded MCU entry since the Winter Soldier. They're really taking a grounded approach, which that all sounds fine and good, but I think the film itself, as long as it can tell a really compelling story that actually gets me to buy into a couple of things. One, the idea that the Cap is now fully emerged as, or that Anthony Mackie is fully emerged as the new Captain America, and we believe that as an audience. But that I
Mm-hmm.
think even more so, how are the events that are happening in this movie really shaping the next couple of movies? Not the Avengers stuff per se, but even just like Thunderbolts. Like, how are we setting
Yeah.
things up even for that on a ground
Mm-hmm.
level on Earth? Like, I think we do have to like reground ourselves with like the shit that's happening on Earth, because we've kind of gotten away from that with a lot of these recent MCU projects, for better and for
Mm-hmm.
worse. And so that'll be interesting to see, as well. Ironheart, anything you want to say about that? I'll cut the bullshit here. I mean, I looked at the leak footage. I mean, it's out there. Disney's not taking it down. Like, people put the shit up on Twitter, so I'm like, I'm a watch it.
Yeah.
So people definitely recorded the trailer that they showed there. And I don't want to judge it too much because it's not officially released and the sound isn't great per se, but it looks okay. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, still Disney Plus. There's some interesting things there. Obviously, Riri could be a very compelling character. We know Anthony Ramos is going to be the villain. But from what I saw, it looks like they have a pretty strong relationship with each other before he kind of turns on her. It looks like they'll have a
Mm-hmm.
really solid friendship before they become adversaries towards each other. But it's still a while away before we get the show itself, so I'm sure that's why they're holding on the trailer. But anything you wanted to say about Ironheart, or even like Ryan Coogler's involvement, or just like what the story's shaping up to apparently be?
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see Ryan Coogler out there in general. I was like, oh shoot, Ryan Coogler is announcing Ironheart. That's cool. Just that concept, I think, alone is cool. Of course, he had to kind of introduce her in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, so it was fitting that he did it. But yeah, I don't know, for some reason I just didn't expect to see him. But I too kind of looked at it, and like you said, it's like it's okay. I think what's weird about this show, and also maybe Agatha, we'll see how it turns out, but it also feels like these shows are remnants of what they were trying to do before in terms of Disney Plus TV shows.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of that DNA is going to be in here, and I'm trying to figure out, do I forgive it because of that or not? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to. And of course, there's reshoots and all these other things, but really, it feels like, we'll talk about it in a second, but it really feels like Daredevil Born Again is the first show post let's fix our TV show shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the one that's like, all right, we got to get this Disney Plus thing together if we're going to do this. That's really feels like the first one that's going to kind of take that on. And so, Ironheart and Agatha in general is like, it looks like that, but also I kind of expect it to look like that at this point versus, oh no, this is a whole new thing with all new complete DNA. So yeah, it just looks okay. We'll see. Like you said, they still got some stuff to work on, and it'll come soon. I can't wait to see the full trailer in HD. Maybe that'll even help. Like you said, the sound wasn't great and things like that, but yeah, it's okay for now. I'm still excited for the character itself, but it is still going to take a little bit convincing for me, even as an Ironheart fan, to be like, oh yeah, this show's going to be crazy. So yeah, I'm still excited for it. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I still need a little bit more from the Ironheart front.
Yeah, it's just too early to tell at this point, and I think we have reason to doubt and reason to be cautiously optimistic about it. But as we see more from the show and we learn more about the story and we get more of the marketing materials, I'm sure that'll dictate the ultimate feelings about how the show's going to be before it actually comes out. Agatha all along, that's like right around the corner. But Daredevil Born Again, again, big stuff here. Season 2 already confirmed to be filming, so sounds and feels like they probably feel pretty good about season 1 at this point, which I don't think is any surprise ever since the creative pivot, to sort of reshape this show and to fully integrate the Netflix Defender saga into the MCU, which is probably where they should have started from the beginning. But man, it was an incredible sight to see the cast on stage together, to see Vincent D'Onofrio, Charlie Cox, Eldon Henson, John Bernthal, and Deborah Ann Wool all together on stage. I mean, I got chills down my
Beautiful.
spine because I was like, wow, we have not seen all of these people together in a really long time now. Since
Yeah.
when did that last season come out? 2017, 2018, maybe, for Daredevil season 3. So it's been like 6 or 7 years. And to now know that they're all back and they are going to be in this story. and that it's coming pretty soon here. Within a few months, we're going to get this Born Again series. And yeah, the trailer that was leaked and released online, gotta say, it looks amazing. There was a lot of stuff that came out of that, a lot of really interesting shots. We do see the Punisher in the shots of the trailer. He's
Yeah.
fully bearded. There's also a shot of like 5 different Daredevil helmets, all different colors, which looked incredible and probably says a lot about the show. There's also potentially some sort of alliance maybe between Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock. And he's also sort of insinuating in the trailer that he knows that Matt Murdock is indeed Daredevil, which I don't think was ever officially confirmed and landed upon in the original series. That's going to be something that they kind of, I guess, address in this new show. But man, I am stoked for this. I cannot wait for this. And, based off of just like seeing some leaked footage, once we get the official trailer, I'm sure it's going to be even better for what they deliver before the show comes out. But what were your thoughts on just the whole Born Again presentation for Daredevil?
Man, you said it. Seeing them back on stage together again was like, whoa, we're really about to do this. And man, one of the things about the Netflix Marvel series, the Defender series, is as we're watching that and we knowing it's not connected to the MCU, there was still always like but what if it was feeling? And now it's like almost kind of here, and just seeing that on stage at a D23 presentation felt good to me. And it was like, dang, why wasn't it like this all along, kind of? So I mean, just shout out to them for even trying to, I guess, kind of close that gap and bring that back around, because it does feel good, I think, to see that and to see these seasons coming around. Like you said, it does look pretty good. And the cast is kind of wilding. Like, they keep saying things to try to get us excited. I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? First of all, y'all need to stop, but also keep going. Like, this is great. Why do you keep telling me things? Like Matt Murdock saying there's going to be some, I forgot the exact words, but he was pretty much saying, yeah, there's going to be some characters in here that y'all recognize, long story short. I'm like, I can't wait to see who y'all throw in here, because I swear if I see like a Spider-Man or something, I'll be like, what? How did we get here? This is crazy.
It won't be Spider-Man again.
It won't be Spider-Man.
Sony not gonna have that, but
but to that degree, is what I mean.
The jury's out. Howard the Duck might show up. You never know. That could be
Howard the Duck. He just might. But yeah, man, I'm excited to get to the nitty gritty. John Bernthal returning in general as Punisher is like, we're doing it right. We're doing it right. We have to be doing it right. But yeah, man, it looks good. Excited to see it. But very good presentation, I think, for Daredevil. And I think everybody's on board at this point. The fact that season 2 is already about to start shooting is like, they know what they got. They know what they got.
It has the potential. It really does. It has the potential to not only just be one of the best Marvel shows, like that could be one of the better TV shows of the year, period.
Yeah.
Like any network, any streaming platform, if they handle it right, if they can really embody the spirit of what those first 3 seasons did, which they continue to tell us, we embody the spirit of what the Netflix Daredevil show did. If you just carry that forth and tell a bigger and grander story with even more stakes with these characters that we've already have a relationship with, like they don't have to do any foundational work. We know these characters. We've been there. It's just been like a 6-year gap. That is ripe for, I think, an incredible opportunity ahead. So I'm just so excited for Daredevil Born Again. I can't wait. Also want to quickly acknowledge they did have a Marvel animation panel that happened, I think, Saturday. They gave us a few sort of updates about some upcoming projects. We found out that Marvel Zombies is officially rated TVMA, which we knew. They say it's going to be incredibly violent, and it's going to be pretty shocking in terms of the violence. They did confirm that's going to be 4 episodes long, sort of considered an event series. They also confirmed that Eyes of Wakanda as well will be 4 episodes long, and that's also sort of considered an event series. They confirmed that What If Season 3 will be the final season of What If, and so they're going to conclude that particular series on Disney+. And then the last big one was Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is still slated to come out. That's the animated series featuring the character, sort of a prequel story to the Tom Holland live-action movies. They announced that Coleman Domingo is voicing Norman Osborn in the show, which just incredible casting. So
incredible.
Any thoughts on just the Marvel animation announcements with those future projects that'll be coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, Marvel Zombies. I'm very excited for it. Make it TVMA. I think we actually talked about that before. We were like, if y'all don't do Marvel Zombies, make it TVMA. It has to be. Like, what are we doing if that's not the case? So excited for that. And I hope, 4 episodes. Let's make it special. Let's make it really good. So yeah, very excited to see that. Man, the Coleman Domingo Norman Osborn news, 10 out of 10. Like, yeah, they did that. Good job. I'm very happy
Why stop at
with that choice.
animation? Why stop?
That's what I was thinking.
Why stop there? Why not take that to the
No,
next fucking level? Just cast this man in a movie, for goodness sake.
no,
Norman Osborn, the one that they showed us, is already black as hell. That's a black
I
Norman
was thinking
Osborn,
about
bro.
that.
Like,
I'm like, I instantly thought of the Norman Osborn with the waves. That's the one we talking about. The Come on,
dripped
Como
out
Domingo's
green
right
suit.
there.
Yeah.
Como Domingo's already the best dressed celebrity out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's right there. What are we doing? But yeah, I think that's really smart. And they could really, that could already be the play, and they just haven't announced it, right? Like, they could already have that in their back pocket, and they just haven't told us. So it's very possible. But yeah, we'll have to see on that front. Only thing I'm a little surprised about is What If ending so early. I guess maybe I expected like 4 or 5 seasons. I don't. And maybe, yeah. I don't know. I just expected more than 3, maybe. But maybe there's something I'm missing there, because I just thought, now we have so many more characters. There's more to tell. Like, you have Daredevil on your plate now, and the Electras, and the Luke Cages, and now you have the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and it's like, y'all just got all these characters, now y'all ending What If. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just thought they would have a couple more stories to play with on the side of animation, and maybe that just speaks to how many people even maybe watched season 3. I don't know what the numbers were.
Yeah, I
But
don't. I don't.
know.
I don't think anybody's watching. I think that's why it's going away.
You know, I was watching.
No.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just expect a couple more seasons, and maybe that, and yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe people just aren't watching.
Yeah, I mean, the release strategy for season 2, probably not a great idea. Like the 1 episode per day over the holiday season during Christmas. I mean, nobody's watching that. That's just the reality. Nobody's watching that once a day to keep up with What If, which was already not a heavily praised first season. I think people liked it, but it wasn't like this resounding success. And you're already sort of pigeonholing yourself to a certain demographic when it becomes animation, because people will be turned off by that. They're like, oh, it's animated, I don't want to watch that. A certain demographic will be turned off by that. I think season 2 just kind of cemented that nobody's really tapping into it, and they're not going to produce anything that's not returning, really, really high gains for them. And so they'll probably just round it out, tell a really interesting story, hopefully for season 3, maybe something that can, make it all make sense, because they did try to integrate it into the main stories that they were telling with the 616 timeline. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a mess, to be honest with you. But the other stuff, it'll be cool. I mean, the animation stuff that they're doing is it's fine. It's fine. Not just knocking my socks off. The Spider-Man show I'm most interested in, because similar to Batman, as we talked about earlier, long lineage in animation. Lots of opportunity there to do something that's really, really great and amazing. It could be incredible. Like, if we can tap into what X-Men 97 did, obviously in a much different way, but if we can get there, again, that's kind of the gift and the curse. They develop something that's just so amazing. It's like everything else doesn't stack up, but I want it to be that great. I want it to be on that level, and hopefully that will be the case. Let's move on to well, actually, before we do that, were there any other announcements from like the entertainment side of things, the Entertainment Expo, that you wanted to bring up that we didn't talk about? Any other big movies or shows that they talked about or highlighted?
I don't think so. I think we went down the list of everything that was kind of interesting to me. Yeah, no, I think that's it, bro.
I will say they had the picture of the Fantastic Four cast on set, and we saw like what appears to be an outfit for Johnny Storm. He was wearing like a throwback outfit, and I thought that looked cool. And Pedro Pascal had this mustache. He looks very 60s. He looked like Walt Disney in the picture. So it feels like that they're nailing everything that they're going after with that movie. So yeah, very curious to see how Fantastic Four shapes up and shapes out. But let's move on to parks and experiences. We don't have to spend a ton of time here, but they had some really big stuff come out of the parks and experiences showcase on Saturday. And one of the things that was immediately said was that none of these ideas are blue sky anymore. These are all in active development. So you can pretty much count on these things happening at the various parks across the world. Let's start off with the stuff at actually the other parks internationally. Hong Kong Disneyland and Shanghai Disneyland. They announced 2 new Spider-Man rides. There's going to be a Spider-Man roller coaster at Shanghai Disneyland, and also there's going to be a new Spider-Man attraction at Hong Kong Disneyland, which is rumored, I think based on the concept art, to be a version of the Tower of Terror. The way it looks like, Peter Parker might be webbing and slinging up like a motion car, sort of similar to the way that the Tower of Terror does, which that is like my favorite ride maybe of all time. It's an incredible ride. So if they could replicate that and put Spider-Man into it, that seems like a really, really cool thing. So they're getting Spider-Man really integrated across the parks internationally. Any thoughts on just like those teases that they put out for the Spider-Man rides?
No, they look good. I love that they're getting international with it. Again, there was a lot of emphasis on the Shanghai Disneyland and the that Hong Kong Disneyland. They like, look, y'all, Spider-Man worldwide. We putting him everywhere. But yeah, no, it was just cool to see some new rides being on the precipice. To be honest, really, this whole part of D23 was interesting to me because I went recently, I think, to these theme parks, and to see Spider-Man even be claimed by Disney is so different than him seeing him be claimed by Universal. You're so used to Spider-Man at Universal. I was like, wait, Disney does have Spider-Man things to do that they can do now. So yeah, it was just cool to see that in general. It's like, oh yeah, Spider-Man's back home.
Yeah, they are also doubling and tripling down on IP in the parks. I mean, that has
Hmm.
become the strategy. The thing that I forgot to mention is that Bob Iger, I think it was recently that he said that they were going to be investing in an expansion worth $60 billion across all of their parks all across the world. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it makes sense because these parks just print money for Disney. I mean, they are the
They
highest
do.
generating revenue within the company by far. When you look at just like what Disney earns on a yearly basis, you look at their quarterly reports, the parks are above and away the highest earners, which is no surprise. I mean, people love these parks and are very attached to them. And over recent years, especially post COVID, they're seeing some of these lands and some of these IP driven attractions be really, really successful. And so they're sort of tripling down on that because pretty much every announcement is based on a pre existing IP that
Hmm.
they're integrating into the park. Disneyland Paris and also Disney Adventure World, which is getting renamed from Walt Disney Studios in Paris. It's been a long derided park. A lot of people don't love that second park. Disneyland Paris gets a lot of praise, but the second park has not gotten a lot of love over the years, and so they're trying to reimagine it. And
Hmm.
they're integrating a new Lion King themed area called Pride Land, and there's going to be a ride there, which looks similar to like a Splash Mountain sort of log flume ride,
Hmm.
and also a Disney Adventure World. They're integrating an entire world dedicated to Frozen, which is going to just be called World of Frozen, which is going to consist of some signature attractions, of course. And so Frozen continues to expand in a big, big way, especially over in the Paris park. Any thoughts on that?
No, that stuff sounds cool. I understand why they, like you said, they are going for these more themed things because, quite plainly, you look at Harry Potter Land or slash World, you look at, what is it? You look at like a Galaxy's Edge. It's like that's where all the energies are is in those parks. Literally was there last year, and the rest of the park felt like it was being suffocated because those parts of the park are just so popular. So it's like, of course, they're kind of going that direction here, especially if some things aren't working out as well. So this Lion King themed area with Pride Land makes sense, and the World of Frozen makes sense. I think it does to get some people there for their attractions. So yeah, it makes sense.
I'm just curious what that says about us as a society because I've been going to the Disney parks for 25 years, and once upon a time, everything or nearly everything that was developed was original ideas. They were all
Yeah,
original concepts and original rides. There were obviously things based on pre-existing IP in the parks, of course. I mean, Cinderella Castle, like there were things,
yeah. Hmm.
but at the turn of the 2010s, with the creation of the Wizarding World, which for every great thing that happens, there's always a downside. There's always,
Hmm.
oh wow, this actually started a trend that might not be the greatest. That has just driven these Disney parks to create nothing but IP based areas and lands. And it's interesting that in this entire presentation, I mean, it's kind of funny because we're getting sequels to movies that we've already gotten, and we're also kind of getting sequels to lands that we've already gotten. Like there's sequels in the parks happening because they're expanding Avengers Campus. They're taking Galaxy's Edge to
Yeah.
other parks. That they're doing this like more and more now, and it's just reflecting exactly what's happening on the theatrical side, which really does drive the business, the creative. Um, but it's successful. People are going to it. And I'm just like, well, what does that say about us as a society that we're only attracted to the things that we know? We're not really open to these original ideas. Cause hell, I just remember early days, man, you would go to Epcot and it's not the greatest park for me personally, but every ride there was just original for the most part. They had a
It was
couple of things
new.
that were tied, but these were all just like brand new ideas. I mean, even the Disneyland
Yeah.
park itself, when Walt Disney
Hmm.
created it in 1955, Space Mountain,
Space Mountain,
The
classic.
Matterhorn.
Yeah.
I mean, just pick a ride. Haunted Mansion. These were all
Small World.
just
Yeah.
original ideas, but now
Hmm.
everything is tied to a franchise or an IP. So it's interesting. It's an interesting, I think, area to be in at this point.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And man, I've been up and down, left and right through them parks, man, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. It is kind of sad in one part, because it was always cool to have something original that was like, I don't know. It's almost like you had to be there to get it sometimes. Like if you've never been to Space Mountain, there's no way you can know about Space Mountain unless you've actually been there.
Yep.
But now it's like, I feel like if I tell somebody I went to, I don't know, the Avatar theme land Pandora, they have an idea, and I'm not mad that you have an idea, but it's like, I don't know, it's just not the same kind of experience of you going in not knowing what Space Mountain is, riding it for the first time. You and your family are talking about it, like, oh my god, what was that? And it's not tied to anything. There's no Space Mountain movie. There's no Space Mountain book. It's just Space Mountain. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's unfortunate, but like you said, it does feel so correlated to how movies are today. It's like, yeah, of course we love the big IP, but then I hope we don't complain about there not being any original IP because we don't go see it. Are we getting on those rides? We might not be getting on those rides. So here we are now with all the lands with IP because we don't go get on the other rides no more. Simple as that, man. It's simple.
Yeah, well, speaking of sequels to lands, they're bringing an Avatar themed Pandora to Disney's California Adventure. Obviously, that area at the Animal Kingdom has been very, very successful, and now they're expanding it to Disney's California Adventure. But it's also going to integrate more of the future movies. Like they're saying that the Way of Water and Fire and Ash and the future movies are going to be
Mm.
more integrated into this new area. So I imagine we'll get some new attractions. They also announced the first official Coco themed attraction is going to be coming to Disney's California Adventure. And a big one was that they are allegedly doubling the size of Avengers Campus over at Disney's California Adventure. Right now, that particular area only has 2 rides and a couple of restaurants and some stores, but they're going to add 2 new rides. One is Stark Flight Lab. We're going to get Robert Downey Jr. reprising his role as Tony Stark. It looks to be like sort of a motion controlled sort of ride where you sit in a car and it moves around. It almost feels like the Wizarding World Harry Potter ride inside Hogwarts Castle in
Hmm.
Orlando. That same type of mechanism. And they also announced another big ride that's, I guess, going to be the new centerpiece, Avengers Infinity Defense, which is going to incorporate a lot more of the characters, and King Thanos is going to be the primary villain of that particular story in that ride, and it's going to be a multiversal attraction. You're going to go to multiple places and multiple timelines in the MCU, Wakanda, and all the stuff from Guardians of the Galaxies, and are probably in a fight with King Thanos, who is a multiversal variant of the Thanos that we know from the movies. And so, what are your thoughts on just like the California Adventure expansion, especially the Avengers Campus stuff, since that is like one of the more hot spots within that park?
Oh, I think they cooking. I really do. I think Disney California Adventure is cooking. I've actually always, I think, kind of like that park. It has been a while. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I remember last time I went, being like, "Huh, this is pretty good." And so, man, honestly, Avengers Infinity Defense looks like it could be a fire attraction if they do that correctly. Like, I think the concept of it taking up a lot of space, but also you knowing all these different characters and it take you through different parts of the timeline and dealing with Thanos as a villain. I like that storytelling in an attraction like that. I think it can be really cool. I think it can look really good. And I think the thing is about being in like lands and campuses and all those things is the feel. So I think if they can do that correctly and provide that feel of like, oh no, we in Avengers adventure now, I think that'll be really dope. And Stark Flight Lab was good, man. I think that was the first suspended. Is that the one they were talking about?
That's
Is
the
the first
Monsters Inc.
suspended ride?
ride.
Oh, it's the Monsters Inc. ride. Okay, different ride. But it looks good. It's funny because like all the headlines you see is Robert Downey returns. It's Iron Man for the Stark Flight Lab. And I'm like, y'all are ridiculous. It's just a ride, guys. But yeah, it's funny that they're using that as the headline. But it's cool. Now we're getting an Iron Man ride again. Before all of this, there was no Iron Man ride. Iron Man was not that character. Now he is definitely that character. So it's cool that it would be something that cement like, yeah, y'all, Tony Stark is now him. I think it's cool.
Yeah, they're finally getting him really integrated here. I know that there's a whole Stark Expo section. I think it's at Shanghai Disneyland. Like that Marvel themed land is themed after Stark Expo, and so it's interesting
Hmm.
that it's taken this amount of time. But I know Avengers Campus. I haven't been to Avengers Campus yet. I actually haven't been to California Adventure since it opened. I went the year that it opened as a kid,
Hmm.
and I remember early days being supremely disappointed at that park. Like, what the hell
Dang.
is this shit? This is not Disney. Because they were very much modeling it after California vibes, and the rides didn't have
Hmm.
stories, and it was just like carnival esque vibes, and I just wasn't with it. We went over to Disneyland right after that. Spent a few hours and got the park hopper and went to Disneyland. So I haven't been in a while. I do plan to visit Avengers Campus soon, but I've not heard great things. I think it's been pretty
Hmm.
sparse and pretty bare in terms of just like its feel. Like when you think about lands and being immersed, it's not like Galaxy's Edge. I think a lot of people do have a lot
Right.
of praise for Galaxy's Edge, but I've not heard that same amount of praise for Avengers Campus. I think partly due to the size of it. They've only had 2 attractions so far, and they haven't been received that great. Outside of the Guardians ride, the Guardians ride gets a lot of praise, but I think
Hmm.
adding on these
Hmm.
new rides will help out a lot with hopefully the perception of Avengers Campus to make it feel like you're really in a Marvel themed land. And the other two make sense. Coco, that I think that's a good addition. Obviously, super popular movie, and of course Avatar. Last but not least, Walt Disney World, which is getting some big things. They are revamping an area in Disney's Animal Kingdom, Dino Land USA, which I was just there last year, and I went over to Dino Land and Animal Kingdom, and it's definitely it's overdue for a makeover because there's just not much happening over there. They're going to turn it into this new area called Tropical Americas, adding 2 new attractions. There's going to be an original Indiana Jones attraction, so something completely new, not like in the other
Hmm.
parks. And they're also building the Casita Madrigal from Encanto that's going to be over in that area of the park. So they're going to do a big revamp there. Also, at Disney's Hollywood studio, Monsters Inc. is going to be coming in, and that's the first suspended roller coaster that
Hmm.
they're going to have in the Disney park. It's apparently going to be a land in and of itself over at Disney's Hollywood studio, but this suspended roller coaster, which is modeling itself after the climactic, doorway sort of action scene from the first movie, which is like from the very get go, that was kind of made to be a roller coaster. It's almost kind of crazy that it took this
Yeah.
long to become a ride, but
What?
it's like literally perfect. In the words of Deadpool, that only took 20 fucking years, but here we are. They're going to build that, and then also again to kind of the earlier point, sequel parks. They're bringing Cars to the Magic Kingdom. There's already a Cars Land at Disney's California Adventure that they built a few years ago, and now
Mm.
they're going to bring Cars to the Magic Kingdom, and I suppose give that its own area. What do you think about those? We'll get to the big one in a second here with the villain stuff. But what did
Hmm.
you think about those other announcements for the Walt Disney World parks?
Yeah, I'm actually here for Monsters Inc. Man, it's a Pixar movie that I know and love. And I think once you hear, it's also something about the Monsters Inc. music that I'm just like, oh man, like if I'm walking and I start hearing that and I know it's a land, I would actually get pretty excited. I think there's a lot they can do there. But yeah, I'm a Monsters Inc. fan. I think they could be a cool roller coaster. Like you said, how have we taken this long to get there? But if you see the picture of like the suspended door roller coaster thing, it's like, yeah, I think that could be fun if they do that right. So I actually am pretty excited to see Monsters Inc. at Hollywood Studios. And again, Hollywood Studios is also one of those places that that again, all the energy is in these couple places. It's like Galaxy's Edge / Toy Story Land over there. All they need is a couple more things, and I think Hollywood Studios is a banger, and maybe Monsters Inc. is one of those things that they got missing over there. So yeah, excited to see how Monsters Inc. turns out. Cars, to be honest, Cars has never been my favorite. I don't hate it, but I don't know. It's just never been like my favorite property over at Pixar. So it's cool. I think they can do some cool things with it. Again, the renderings that they have almost kind of remind me of like in Jurassic World where they're running around in the balls and looking at all the different stuff. That's what that kind of reminds me of in that rendering. But yeah, we'll see. It looks fine. But yeah, not too much to say about Cars.
Yeah, I could care less about Cars, but that by no means says anything about the attractions themselves. Because I'm sure
Yeah.
Cars lends itself incredibly well to being a theme park and being an area. I'm sure that I
Hmm.
mean it's Cars. Like literally, there's car-based rides, and so I'm sure it's a lot of fun. I've heard good stuff about Cars Land in Disney's California Adventure. Again, I haven't been to that park in a while, so I haven't experienced it, but I'm sure it'll be a massive success because kids love cars. All the other stuff sounds really good. Monsters Inc. makes a lot of sense. I already think the Disney Hollywood Studios is a damn great park. I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
necessarily needs more, to be honest with you. I think that they have so much to offer there. That was the most fun that I had at a Disney park when I just went last year. It was an incredible time, especially with the Galaxy's Edge stuff, which is incredibly immersive. The Toy Story stuff is really great, and they have some incredible classic rides. Tower of Terror, the
Tower
Aerosmith
of
roller
Terror.
coaster is great. The
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones show is great. They got some really good stuff. This is going to be added value, of course, and if they can nail it and really give you a truly thrilling roller coaster, again, their first suspended one that they haven't tapped into yet. I mean, that's super exciting. Suspended roller coasters have a very unique feel to them. They don't feel like regular roller coasters just because like there's no floor beneath you. So it's almost more frightening that way, but also just with the space that they can use and how they can recreate that whole
Mm-hmm.
climactic scene from the first movie. I'm really interested to see how they pull that off from just like a Imagineering perspective. But their huge big announcement that they wrapped up things with is something that's been long rumored and long talked about that they're finally putting into motion. Villains Land is coming to the Magic Kingdom. It's an entirely new land based on many of the iconic villains throughout Disney history, throughout Disney animated history, all the ones that you know and love. And they're finally building a land, an area that's going to be dedicated to the darker side of Disney. And I think people suspected for a long time that they probably wouldn't pull the trigger on this because they're a family company. They don't want to lean too far into the scary stuff, to the stuff that's a little bit darker. But I think with some added pressure from across the street with Epic Universe and the fact that they're going to have a
Mm-hmm.
Dark Universe park within Epic Universe
Mm-hmm.
opening up next year, and people were very happy and excited to see that. I think that they finally said, "Oh yeah, we need an answer. We definitely need to be on top of our toes and get ahead of this and develop this Villains Land at Magic Kingdom." So, thoughts on this and sort of hopes and anticipation for what Villains Land might look like?
Hey, I'm down for it, man. Because Disney villains are iconic. They are Ursula, Maleficent, and Hades, and Cruella Deville, and like Jafar, and there's Captain Hook. There's just all these really cool villains, and when you go to these parks you never get to, I think, interact with them in this way, to have a whole area of like, look y'all, these villains are iconic, and there's a way to also celebrate them, and so yeah, I think it's really cool. We'll see how it turns out. I hope they do lean into some of that creepy stuff. I can see some of that stuff being scary for sure. I don't know how far they'll go into it, but I don't know, I can just imagine walking and it's like Ursula has a certain feel to her. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, is that what's going on over here? So yeah, I think it could be really cool if done right. But yeah, I'm actually excited to see how that turns out. I hope they lean all the way in and make it good, because it could be cool. And to be honest, some kids are, I don't think psycho is the word, but some kids are like, hell yeah, let's go see, let's go see some of these evil people over here. You know, let's go see the villains. But yeah, I like the idea of these villains, I think, being put on a different pedestal than they have in the past.
Yeah, it's about damn time. It's about damn time. I think this is something that again fans of the parks have been calling for just the longest time now. It's been years and years and years in the making. They've heard it, and again, I think that pressure from Universal to know that they are developing a themed land around their horror icons and their monsters, and they saw the positive reception that really fueled the decision to go ahead and make this a reality, which is fine. Competition, is a good thing for them and good for them to remain on their toes. And so it'll definitely be exciting and all the potential in the world, really. The execution is going to be really important because they obviously have limits. They can't go too far with it, obviously, just due to the nature of the parks and
Mm-hmm.
who attends the parks. But from a just an iconography standpoint, just like what they have at their disposal, even the concept art looks incredible. The concept art looks amazing. Like if they can really
Yeah.
nail that look and just like create those vibes and use all of the iconography from these villains and from these movies and just integrate that into the park, and hopefully the two rides that they're launching with are phenomenal rides that people really enjoy. It can be special. It can really reinvigorate the Magic Kingdom because the Magic Kingdom is classic. It's obviously resembles the original Disneyland park, but I think it's definitely time for more, and that's what they're doing with this area. That's what they're doing with the Beyond Frontierland stuff that they're developing, the car stuff that's going to come here. The Tron stuff that they added recently is extraordinary. The Tron Light Cycle Run ride, they're really expanding Magic Kingdom out in a big way, and I think it's about time, because you can't rest on just the traditional look and feel of what that park is. And so lots to look forward to, but we'll have to see how this all ultimately pans out over the next few years as we continue to just drop buckets and buckets of money on these parks as they get more and more expensive. But that's where we are. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on everything that came out of the D23 Expo this past weekend. If you have thoughts, reactions, and opinions on these announcements, definitely hit us up and let us know what you think.